Hello and welcome to What the Fort. Today we're looking at cholera in Exeter. This awful pandemic had a huge impact on Exeter, affecting families across the city. It did eventually lead to improvements in sanitation and water supply, but not before hundreds of people lost their lives.
Cholera is thought to have originated in India and spread to Europe in the early 19th century. It first reached Britain in 1831, with the first case detected in Sunderland in the autumn of that year. Cholera is an infectious disease and it spreads by drinking liquids and eating foods contaminated by the cholera bacteria. The disease causes severe diarrhea, vomiting and leg cramping, which can cause dehydration, septic shock and death within hours.
In the summer of 1832, cholera reached Plymouth, and 6 days later, on the 19th of July, the first 2 cases were detected in Exeter. One was here in North Street, which was a woman who just recently travelled back from Plymouth, and the other was a case in St Thomas's.
Panic soon gripped the city as the number of dead grew. The Bishop Philpot left Exeter while the disease spread, which caused disgust. The locals also thought the authorities were disposing of the dead without care and even burying people alive. By the end of the outbreak in October 1832, there were 1,200 known cases and 402 deaths in the city. The population of Exeter at the time was 28,000.
During the outbreak, doctors, physicians and druggists worked out of the Exeter dispensary, based here in Friarnhay Street, off of Bartholomew Street. This was here until it moved to Queen Street in 1843. One of the most well-respected doctors to work out of the Exeter dispensary was Dr. Thomas Shapter, who tended to the poor across the city. He went on to write a detailed account of the outbreak in his book of 1848, where he showed every street that someone lost their life. Another well-respected doctor of the cholera outbreak was Dr. Peter Hennis, who was appointed medical officer for one of the poorest south districts in the city, where he tended to his patients with great care. This is his grave in St Sidwell's churchyard. Dr. Hennis was one of the last people in Britain to die from a duel. In May 1833, Sir John Jeffcott, an Admiralty Court judge, accused Hennis of blackening his name and challenged him to a duel at Holden Racecourse. The plan was to take 14 paces and then fire, but Jeffcott fired much earlier than this, fatally wounding Hennis, who died 8 days later. The court judge was charged but later acquitted of murder. He too died several years later, though, in a boating accident in Australia. Authorities made plans for the outbreak of the disease, including the burning of infected linen, isolating victims, and even trying to clean the most filthy parts of the city. They also made plans for the burial of the dead. The earliest cholera victims were buried here at Bartholomew Yard, but this soon became full. There were other multiple burials of victims across the city, but these were often accompanied by riots as fear of the disease spread. Due to the problems with the other burial grounds, a new burial ground was started here at Bury Meadows near St David's Church. 159 cholera victims were buried here from the 1832 outbreak, as well as a further 34 from the 1833 and 1834 outbreaks when cholera returned to the city.
Although physicians didn't initially know how the disease was spread at the time, it is now thought that the Longbrook was the main source of the bacteria. This image shows the Longbrook Valley as idyllic, however all of the domestic waste ran into the brook from North Street. After the outbreak and the realisation that it was spreading in the water, there were many improvements to the hygiene of the city. The Longbrook and Shute brooks were culverted and there were new sewers built throughout Exeter.
In the 19th century, cholera killed more people more quickly than any other epidemic disease, and Exeter suffered along with many major cities. The subsequent improvements to the sewers and brooks changed the landscape of the city forever. Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hope to see you soon.